CH-47 Chinook. 2 rotors, no tail rotor. Every ounce of power dedicated to lifting. This helicopter has moved more NATO cargo than any other aircraft in history, and after 60 years of service, it remains the backbone of Allied heavy lift operations worldwide. The Chinook's tandem rotor design solves a fundamental physics problem. Traditional helicopters waste roughly 10% of engine power spinning a tail rotor to prevent fuselage rotation. The Chinook eliminates that waste entirely. Both rotors lift, both rotors thrust. Here's what that engineering choice enables. The CH-47F Block II carries 12 tons internally or on external hooks. It transports 55 combat troops or 2 HMMWVs simultaneously. Its triple hook system allows delivery to multiple locations in a single sortie, artillery to one position, ammunition to another. 21 nations operate Chinooks. 9 are NATO members. The United Kingdom fields 54 aircraft, the largest fleet outside America. Germany ordered 60 more to replace aging CH-53Gs under post-Ukraine defense overhaul. In Afghanistan, Chinooks logged over 86,000 combat hours with 80% mission readiness. They operated at altitudes exceeding 10,000 feet, thin air that cripples conventional helicopters. They flew through sandstorms, at night, into landing zones smaller than parking lots. The airframe has been continuously upgraded since 1962. Block II variants feature composite rotor blades, strengthened transmissions, and digital glass cockpits. The helicopter entering service today shares a name with the Vietnam-era original, but virtually nothing else. Some platforms endure because bureaucracy protects them. The Chinook endures because nothing else does what it does. But the Marines wanted something bigger. CH-53K King Stallion. 36,000 pounds on a single hook. That's nearly 3 times what the previous generation could lift. The CH-53K King Stallion isn't an upgrade. It's the most powerful helicopter ever built by any Western military. 3 General Electric T408 engines produce 22,500 combined shaft horsepower. Fly-by-wire controls maintain precision hover in 40-knot wind gusts. The cabin accommodates NATO standard 463L pallets without modification. Cargo moves directly from transport aircraft to helicopter without repackaging. Here's what changed the Marine Corps' calculation. Modern armored vehicles are heavier than Cold War designs. The Joint Light Tactical Vehicle weighs over 16,000 pounds fully loaded. The CH-53E couldn't lift it at operationally relevant distances. The King Stallion can carry 2. The program faced brutal criticism during development. Cost overruns exceeded $6 billion. Technical problems delayed initial capability by years. Engine exhaust reingestion, rotor gearbox failures, tail rotor deficiencies. But the Marine Corps had no alternative. No other Western helicopter approaches these capabilities. By September 2025, Sikorsky received a $10.85 billion contract for 99 additional aircraft. The criticism faded. The helicopter works. In April 2024, a King Stallion lifted an F-35C airframe 305 nautical miles while aerial refueling, capabilities no other helicopter can match. But the predecessor still flies. CH-53E Super Stallion. 7 rotor blades, 3 engines. The workhorse that bridged generations. Since 1981, the Super Stallion has been the Marine Corps' primary heavy lift platform, carrying everything from artillery to disabled aircraft across 4 decades of conflict. The CH-53E evolved from the Vietnam-era Sea Stallion by adding a 3rd engine and enlarging the rotor system. Maximum external lift reaches 36,000 pounds, identical to the King Stallion, but only under optimal conditions. Hot weather and high altitude devastate performance. The Marines discovered this in Afghanistan. At 8,000 feet in summer heat, effective payload dropped by half. Missions requiring 1 helicopter needed 2. The logistics chain strained. By 2020, the fleet averaged 45 maintenance hours per flight hour. Corrosion from saltwater operations accelerated airframe fatigue. Helicopters that should have lasted until 2030 were falling apart. Approximately 140 Super Stallions remain operational. They'll continue flying until King Stallion production catches up, probably into the early 2030s. The aircraft remains formidable despite its age. In disaster relief operations, Super Stallions have transported heavy equipment to inaccessible locations, evacuated civilians from hurricanes, delivered emergency supplies after earthquakes. Combat aircraft get the glory. Logistics helicopters win wars. But special operations need something different. MH-47G Chinook. Same airframe. Radically different mission. The MH-47G serves the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, modified for deep penetration missions that conventional Chinooks cannot survive. Aerial refueling capability extends range indefinitely. The probe connects to HC-130 tankers, allowing missions measured in thousands of miles rather than hundreds. Fuel tanks hold twice the standard capacity. The CAAS cockpit integrates forward-looking infrared, multi-mode radar, and terrain-following systems for nap-of-the-earth flight in zero visibility. The aircraft carries M134 miniguns and M240 machine guns for suppressive fire during insertion and extraction. Defensive systems include missile warning receivers, radar jammers, and chaff flare dispensers. These helicopters flew into Abbottabad. During the 2011 Bin Laden raid, MH-47s provided backup for the crashed stealth helicopter. They extracted the assault team and recovered wreckage. The mission succeeded partly because heavy lift capability was available on short notice. The 160th SOAR operates roughly 60 MH-47 variants from Fort Campbell, deploying globally within hours. Meanwhile, Europe built its own solution, NH-90TTH, first full fly-by-wire helicopter ever produced, designed by committee, delivered late, and now it's everywhere. The NH-90 tactical transport helicopter emerged from NATO's 1990s requirement for a medium-lift platform standardized across European armies. France, Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands led development. 14 countries ordered over 500 aircraft. The four-axis fly-by-wire system eliminates mechanical linkages between controls and rotor. Computer algorithms optimize flight characteristics automatically. Pilot workload drops dramatically. The composite fuselage weighs 30% less than aluminum, while providing superior damage tolerance. Radar signature is the lowest in its class. The diamond-shaped airframe deflects radar energy away from receivers. The program experienced predictable multinational problems. 23 different configurations exist because each nation customized the design. Industrial decisions required unanimous consent, delaying milestones for years. Despite bureaucratic chaos, the aircraft performs. German NH-90s deployed to Afghanistan for medical evacuation. French aircraft flew combat missions in Mali. Italian Navy variants conduct anti-submarine warfare across the Mediterranean. The NH-90 carries 20 troops or 2,500 kilograms of cargo, smaller than dedicated heavy lifters, but larger than utility helicopters. The sweet spot for European expeditionary operations. Combat proven since 2010. Still improving. But some missions require absolute maximum lift. Mi-26 Halo, the largest production helicopter on Earth. 20 tons of payload, 90 combat troops, 8 rotor blades spanning 32 meters. The Mi-26 dwarfs everything NATO operates, and some NATO allies actually use it. Soviet doctrine prioritized moving heavy equipment, tanks, artillery, missiles, to locations lacking infrastructure. The Mi-26 was designed to lift loads exceeding what transport aircraft could deliver to remote areas. In 2002, an American MH-47E Chinook crashed in Afghanistan's mountains. Recovery seemed impossible. The helicopter weighed 12 tons, far exceeding what any U.S. aircraft could lift at that altitude. The military leased a civilian Mi-26 from a Russian operator. The Mi-26 lifted the Chinook and flew it to Bagram. American heavy lift capability had been exceeded by a Soviet design from the 1970s. Several NATO members operate Mi-26 variants. Poland fields them for disaster response and heavy construction support. The aircraft proves capability sometimes transcends political alignment. Twin Lotarev D-136 engines produce 22,800 combined shaft horsepower. Maximum takeoff weight reaches 56,000 kilograms. Cargo hold dimensions approximate a C-130 Hercules. In 1982, an Mi-26 lifted 56,768 kilograms to 2,000 meters. The record still stands. No Western helicopter approaches this capability. For certain missions, nothing else will do. But NATO's maritime operations require specialized platforms. AW-101 Merlin. 3 engines. Marinized from conception. The helicopter that operates where salt destroys lesser aircraft. The Augusta-Westland AW-101 Merlin was designed specifically for naval operations in the North Atlantic. Corrosive saltwater, freezing temperatures, violent seas. Naval aviation demands unique features: folding rotor blades and tail sections for ship hangars, corrosion-resistant materials surviving salt spray, flotation systems for emergency water landings. The Merlin incorporates all as standard equipment. The Royal Navy operates Merlin HM2 variants for anti-submarine warfare, sonar detecting submarines beyond 100 kilometers. The helicopter processes contact data independently. The Royal Air Force flies Merlin HC-4 transports carrying 24 troops in combat equipment. Range extends to 1,000 kilometers without refueling, critical for operations beyond carrier aviation radius. Portugal, Denmark, Norway, and Italy also operate Merlins, NATO's standard medium-heavy naval helicopter for nations seeking alternatives to American designs. Merlins flew continuous operations during Libya 2011, personnel recovery and special forces insertion. They've deployed to the Gulf, Indian Ocean, and Caribbean. The sea demands specialized tools. The Merlin delivers. CH-53G Sea Stallion. The helicopter Germany is finally replacing, and the story explains why European defense took decades to modernize. Germany acquired CH-53Gs in the 1970s as license-built variants of the American CH-53D. They were supposed to be replaced by the 1990s. Instead, they're still flying in 2026. After reunification, German defense budgets collapsed. Heavy lift replacement was perpetually deferred. Aircraft aged while decisions stalled. By 2020, fewer than 20 CH-53Gs remained operational from an original fleet of 112. The Ukraine invasion changed everything. Germany's Zeitenwende established 100 billion euros for defense modernization. Heavy-lift helicopters became priority. After considering the CH-53K King Stallion, Germany chose 60 CH-47F Chinooks, citing interoperability with European NATO allies and lower unit costs. The CH-53G's twilight illuminates broader problems. European nations maintained Cold War equipment far beyond design life because replacement required political consensus that never materialized. Aircraft that should have retired in 2000 still fly. Pilots train on systems their fathers operated. The Chinooks arrive starting 2027. The CH-53Gs finally retire around 2030, over 30 years later than planned. 8 helicopters, 8 philosophies. One core mission: moving what cannot move itself. Troops need insertion. Casualties need evacuation. Artillery needs repositioning. Supplies need constant delivery always. These helicopters rarely make headlines. They don't fire missiles or conduct precision strikes. They simply carry, again and again, whatever the war demands moved. Somewhere tonight, rotors are turning. The heavy lifters never stop flying.